advisors. We have an application for historic preservation grant. We have item number 1518, which calls for the resignation of Donald Trump as president, which we will be voting on separately. It will not be on the consent agenda. Then we have bills and claims. Then we'll have our second public comment period. We'll have administrative reports and reports from elected officials. So with that, we also have our Board of Health meeting tonight.
May I just mention one thing?
Yes.
When we were numbering the resolutions, and it'll get caught in there in the consent agenda, there's resolution number 7-18, which is the one with regard to borders. And I don't know if you want to pull that out and vote on it separately.
Which one are you talking about? Oh, borders. That's 9-. Yeah. So we'll pull that out.
I might want to pull it out because it's kind of got lost in there with all the rest of them.
Okay.
So, okay.
Yep. So we're going to be dealing with 9-18 and 15-18 separate votes on those. And as I said, we're going to have our Board of Health meeting tonight right after public comment, and that'll be our reorganization meeting. So with that, we will go into our first public comment period. Is there anyone who would like to address the Township Committee? Come on up and give us your name and address.
Hi, good evening. I'm Michael Paris, 18 Borough Road, Maplewood. I'm also a member of Some Action. I've come just to say a brief word in support of Mr. Lambert's resolution calling for the resignation of President Trump and or his impeachment. I think this is important, even vital. I want to encourage you, hopefully unanimously, to pass this resolution and to let as many people know in any ways that you can that you've done this. And these are not ordinary times. This is a crisis, and I think it's incumbent upon anyone in a position of public trust to make the moral judgment on their own, by their own best lights, and to say, is this normal? Is this ordinary politics? Or is the Republic under a grave threat? I think it's under a grave threat, and even if the resolution doesn't travel and have consequences, even if it doesn't encourage people, mobilize people, encourage other people in positions of public trust to do this, you should do it. It's morally the right thing to do. Andrew Johnson wasn't impeached because he broke a law or he violated the law. He didn't follow the Tenure in Offices Act, but he had a constitutional argument that that act itself was unconstitutional. He had a plausible constitutional argument. Why was he impeached? Why? Battle over the meaning of the Civil War. It was a battle over the meaning of the Republic. It was a battle over whether Lincoln spoke the truth, the moral truth, at Gettysburg. That's what it was about. It wasn't ordinary politics. It wasn't normal times. It was a constitutional crisis in the aftermath of a war that killed 600,000 people. And of course, it was about slavery and whether slavery would be reinstated. You should do this, and you should do it proudly and loudly and vocally. And I assure you, I'll do everything I can to make sure the community is behind you 100%. I've never been prouder than I am now to live in this town, and I've lived here 20 years. What you're doing is great, and I really encourage you to keep doing it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to address the Township Committee at this time? Okay, thank you. We will move on to our Board of Health meeting.
Good evening, members of the Maplewood Board of Health.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, Ms. Fritzen.
Members of the Clerk's Office.
Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2018 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2017, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk. Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, Common Notice of the Open Public Meetings Act requires all meetings of public body be open to the public. And whereas Section 7 provides that the Board of Health has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting. And whereas desire the Maplewood Board of Health to comply with the provisions of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Maplewood Board of Health, Township of Maplewood, does hereby prohibit, as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the Board of Health by the public, except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observations of the actions and discussions of the Board of Health at all of its regular and special meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. Lindberg?
Yes.
Mr. McGehee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Now will be the time where I'll be conducting or entertaining nominations for President of the Maplewood Board of Health for the year 2018.
Ms. Fritzen, I would like to nominate our Deputy Mayor, Frank McGehee, to be President of the Maplewood Board of Health for 2018.
Any second?
Second.
Would there be any additional nominations for
Ms. Fritzen, I
President?
move that nominations be closed.
Second.
Okay, so now we'll take a roll call. Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Mr. McGehee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
I declare Frank McGehee the President of the Maplewood Board of Health for the year 2018. Congratulations.
May it be a healthy one.
And she's here to make sure you do it correctly.
I know exactly. Big shoes to fill.
Okay, Mr. McGehee, now you've asked for approval for the minutes.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Board of Health minutes from December.
You're seeking a motion.
I'm seeking a motion.
I'll move the minutes from December 5th.
I will second that motion.
So move. We'll now have the roll call.
Ms. Adams?
Abstain.
Mr. Daffis?
Abstain.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. McGehee?
Yes. Awesome. Mr. Rowe would now like to provide his report.
Next week, January 11th is Thursday night. The library is hosting a special program on human papillomavirus. And this is the one it's often called herpes. And it's a vaccine for it now that actually prevents cancer. So we'll be advertising this far and wide, and we hope any parents who are interested. This is a vaccine you give to your children when they're in about middle school age, and it's very effective. And so hopefully, after many years, we'll be able to end this epidemic. Maybe a little like the hepatitis B epidemic we used to have, but now more and more people have been vaccinated against it, children, so those numbers are going way down, and we hope that that'll happen with this disease too.
Mr. Rowe, is there a minimum age for children to receive this,
I don't know the minimum age.
or a recommended range?
It's around 10 to 12 years old.
Okay.
Male and female.
Pardon?
Male and female.
Male and female, yes, that's correct. Just as important for both sexes. I guess it was the week before Christmas, we had a follow-up meeting on the police and youth open gym program, and I had reported earlier that I didn't think the Municipal Alliance could support it because it just didn't fit in with the Alliance scheme of things. But we had a meeting with Mr. McGehee and the police and the South Orange Alliance coordinator, and we went over all the details. And so I think we will be able to help fund it now. And one of the good things about it is that since it's at Columbia High School, South Orange can also help support it. So I'm hoping, I don't know that between our alliances we'll have enough money to fund the whole program, but we'll be able to give them a substantial amount of money. And so I just think it's terrific. I think it's also a program which I hope the public supports when they learn about it. It's just one of those win-win-win programs to me. So, and finally, with the ordinance about the dumpsters in the village having their name on them and cleaning up, we'll be passing out, with the food licenses in the village, I put the ordinance in with the note that this was going to be enforced. And starting probably next week, we're hoping maybe it'll be a little warmer, we're going to go to every business in town, whether it's a food business or some other type of business that has a dumpster, and also some landlords, and advise them about the new law. So that's our plan. That's my report.
Thanks.
Do they have, I'm sorry. They have a deadline. They need to get that done once they get notified. Are you giving them any?
Yeah, we're going to notify them. I want to do it all personally so that there's no misunderstanding.
Right.
And then we'll give them, a few weeks. And if they don't do that, we'll give them a notice of violation. And if that doesn't motivate them, we'll write a summons.
Okay.
So I'm thinking like a month. That should be plenty of time.
Mr. Rowe, how was the blood drive at the library?
It was, I'm sorry to say it wasn't as successful as I had hoped. They only collected, I think, 6 units. They had 10 people come to try to donate, but 4 were turned away for various reasons. So I'm kind of disappointed. The nearest blood bank is in Westfield, in Scotch Plains. So I think we're going to start advertising that as a place to go and donate blood. We just don't have any place closer. I remember East Orange used to have a place that was very convenient. But now that there just seems to be fewer blood banks, and they're farther away. But we'll continue to advertise, and I think the one in Scotch Plains is the one we'll promote.
Yeah, I think a number of people also do it through work or other organizations. I mean, I know if I do it at work, I get a half a day off, so.
Oh, there you go. To be so lucky. One more question for you, Mr. Rowe. Any update on the truck delivery sound issue? We had some noise complaints.
Well, I spoke with the one resident who was primarily complaining, and it wasn't just one truck lift gate that he was worried. He's worried about all the deliveries that start early in the morning. So I'm not sure if there's any solution to that. Maybe the town, I don't want to put bad ideas in anybody, but maybe the town can regulate it. Maybe we shouldn't regulate it. I really don't know. We don't want to hurt the businesses, but we don't want to hurt the residents either. So I'm really not sure what the solution to this is.
So the last conversation I had with you, you were going to go to speak to Kings about using
Yes.
this mat. Did you do that?
Yes, they did.
And what did they say?
The manager kind of looked at it and said he would pass it on to his management.
And hasn't gotten back to you
No.
about it? Okay.
No, but that was kind of based on the thought that it was one truck causing the problem. And I think maybe that is partly true, but it seems to be all the trucks.
Well, there needs to be multiple solutions. So you came up with one. It's got to be pursued. So I would suggest you contact them again and see if you got that answer from corporate. And if not, then let's figure out what our next step is to get to corporate.
And also whatever scheduling their deliveries. King's not that far away on Morris Turnpike and Summit, Springfield, like Short Hills, that whole section there by Benihana. So there's not, and that's in a parking lot with no residential right by it. I guess what I'm saying is if they could look into how their deliveries are done, because I know this is their smallest store, but it's also one of their more profitable ones. So if they can back onto a larger truck going to one of their larger stores and get to Maplewood a little bit later than 4, 5, 6 in the morning. So
Right.
there's going to be a need for discussion, whether it's inclusive of the Village Alliance or the businesses that get deliveries at really ungodly hours. There's got to be a way to determine this now that we're building residents.
The other thing is we created a loading zone in the Rickleton parking lot.
Right.
So they shouldn't be parking on Maplewood Avenue. Now, it may be that depending on what they're transporting over and the way they're doing it, it could be noisier if they park in the Rickleton lot. So it's got to be balanced. But I think what we need to do is is to go sit down with the manager and figure out what's going on, and then we can determine a game plan, whether we have to change ordinances as far as deliveries or direct them to park in different areas, because we're not being aggressive enough.
The same manager, is this a new manager? Wasn't there like a new manager there like last year?
Yeah, I think about a year.
One on top of that new one?
Mm.
All right.
Yes, so Mr. Rowe, please,
You'll be able to come up in a minute.
so please follow up and tell them that the Township Committee is very serious about it and expect to hear back from them with some type of solutions, or they'll be hearing from us again.
I will do that.
Mr. Rowe, I have a couple things. First of all, good evening, and I look forward to working with you. I want to go back to the HPV, the vaccine.
Yes.
I understand that the data shows that families are not taking advantage of this very important preventative care. Are there any adverse effects to receiving the vaccine that we know of?
I don't know that, I've read somewhere where people are afraid of it, but I think by and large, it's a safe vaccine.
That's
Yes.
what I thought. And it has nothing to do with, as you stated, how soon can we start? Should parents consider?
I don't have the book in front of me, but I'm thinking about 10 years old, 12, 13.
Right. So
Young adults can still get it, but it's most effective in
At
middle
an
school
earlier
age
age.
children.
right. So it has nothing to do with children being sexually active.
I think, well, there's two reasons. One is that I've heard in explanations, the antibody reaction is better at the younger age.
Right.
And two, yes, you want to get children before they're sexually active. So you're accomplishing both goals.
What do you think we can do at large to educate better on this issue?
Well, run programs. I could get better numbers for you. It's not a required vaccination, but I know that, we do give out information to pediatricians because they're the ones who give it. I think we could do a survey perhaps to try to get a little better numbers, because I've seen numbers all over the place over the years. I think they're gradually improving as time goes by and people become of it. I think at first there was a fear.
Sure.
Is there work with multiple types of vaccinations. I think we're kind of past that initial fear stage, but now we've got to get it into the everybody gets it stage. And it's not required, but we do give out information and all. We can do more than what we've done.
That's great. I wanted to state, and something that we could work on here locally as well, on another matter concerning the blood drive. A significant portion of the population that gets turned away at blood drives consistently still in this age are sexually active gay men. Partnered or not, married or not, a gay man cannot give blood if he is sexually active or has been sexually active within the past year. That is absolutely astounding to me, that in this day and age, with everything that we have overcome in the gay community in terms of our civil rights, that is still federal law. So this is something that we should, I invite the governing body, all of us here, to talk about and to resolve to stay on top of and continue organizing. I also involve a lot of community political organizing, and I'm addressing it to certain community advocates who are present here today. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rowe.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Any other? No. Okay, I'd now like to invite the public to address the Board of Health. No worries, please say your name and your address. First. Thank you so much, sir.
My name is Steve Marcino, and I'm the guy who came last month.
Your address to just.
Yeah, I'm at 160 Maplewood Avenue, unit number 1, which is right above the Starbucks in the new Claris building. And I'm the guy who made the original complaint about the truck noise. And I was just following up because what happens is I'm kind of an active guy. So I had a police officer out there one morning, and you know, I spoke before you people, and I spoke to the management of the building. And my issue is nobody ever gets back to you. So after living there for 2.5 months and complaining to a number of different people, I still have to kind of go around and say, well, I wonder who's speaking to who. I don't know who's been speaking. And I found out a little bit about that tonight from Bob. But I didn't know in the dark who's speaking to who. What are they speaking about? Are they speaking about you know, who, what, and when are they, you know, thinking that something might be done? But I get a better feeling listening to Bob tonight and listening to yourself, Mr. Mayor, that it is being taken somewhat seriously, because I really didn't know. So does Bob continue to be the point man going forward, who is going to keep me abreast of the conversations and if there's any progress? And I don't want to be a pain in the neck, but you know, at 4:30 in the morning, my instinct is to go down to the supermarket, call the police, have somebody show up and say, well, you write the dang guy a ticket. But if I know something's going on, I don't mind. You know there's progress. But morning after morning, you're thinking, well, there is no progress. Nobody's telling me anything.
Well, first and foremost, let me thank you for coming to us last month. And as you can see, we are taking issues seriously. You brought it to our attention, and we tasked Mr. Rowe with addressing the issue, and he has made an initial contact with Kings. And as we discussed this evening, we'll be making follow-up contact with Kings. And if we don't hear sufficient feedback, then we will be involved personally, and we'll bring Kings right here to the Township Committee.
That would be
to have
great.
that conversation.
That's
So just
great.
know that you're being heard, Mr. Messina. We will
Okay,
address
thanks.
this
There
issue.
are other people in the building. I don't know if you want to say something, Robin. It's a,
Sure, if you want to come. Your name and address, of course.
My name is Robin Crawford, and my family and my partner, Lisa Hentelman, we moved here in September. We have 2 children. They're 8 years old, and they attend Jefferson Elementary, and we absolutely feel 100% confident in our decision to relocate from Stockton, New Jersey to Maplewood. We love the walkability. We love the accessibility of everyone. We're just thrilled that we've moved into the Claris, and we're happy to be right next to the train, to get there and go to New York and get back. So it's awesome. I feel great when I get off the train and I'm going right in the house. Yes, I don't mind. I love it. But I do have to say, Peter has been wonderful spearheading for us, and we're tackling a lot of things in the Claris. Joe Forgione has beautiful taste, but you need a right-hand person to follow through on all the little things that we're discovering while we're there. My 8-year-old daughter, I want you to know that our children, they're twins, and they are great sleepers. They always have been, and we're fortunate. But we understand that where we are now in the village, it's the sounds that go on, the garbage trucks, the deliveries, the this and that, they're constant. And my daughter her room looks at Bank of America. So even the lighting is commercial. And there's this residential building that is in a commercial environment, and that's what it feels like, and it moves beautifully that way. But now, with the lighting that is there, and I'm not complaining about the lighting, because now we've fought and we have the darkened shades where we rest. In the leisure rooms, it's fine, but when you're sleeping, it wasn't adequate. So we fought for that, and we have it. Some of us have it. Peter's still boxing that out as well. But my daughter has complained of being tired at school. And it looks like she's resting well to us, but subconsciously she's awake. She says she hears the talking, and she even sees lighting, but she hears activity, constant activity. She never complains about the train. And neither do I, because the mind subconsciously is aware of that. It knows the train is there. I moved here and the train is there. So you rest easily knowing that. But everything else with it, during those daytime hours, wee hours, I hear them constantly. And I wanted to come up and just say that we're not messing around. We love where we are. We really do. But it's a lot of boxing going on over there, and we're steady, and we want to do it in a understanding, cooperative manner. So I'll support Peter, and I'll be here, and Lisa will be as well. So if you want us to bring the family, our children can speak for themselves. We allow
That's
that.
be unnecessary, Ms. Crawford, but thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to extend a very warm welcome to Maplewood to both of you. Thank you for moving to our community, and thank you for coming here to express your concerns. This is a very engaged community, so you are in great company, and this meeting is open to the public. This hall is the people's hall. We want to see and hear from you. These are important considerations, and we take them very seriously, and it certainly, big picture, makes us think about issues like this as we continue to develop in our town in terms of density, where we develop, how we develop, and what the effects of that development is. So thank you again.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the Board of Health? Okay, seeing no one, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes. Thank you.
Good job.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're back to the main agenda. Item number 7, introduction of a new ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, item number 7, introduction to ordinance number 2879-18 is an ordinance to regulate the use of cranes within the Township of Maplewood. This ordinance will regulate the use of cranes as hereinafter defined within the Township of Maplewood.
I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to the law in Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on January 16th, 2018.
Second.
Any discussion? I think we've discussed this enough, right?
I'm good.
Okay,
Maybe
anybody?
to try to squelch public, I just said, please, no.
Okay. I thought maybe someone wanted to lift up something. Okay, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
I think Mrs. Larry should be able to vote on that one.
Okay, we're going to go to our first discussion item, board and committee appointments. I'm going to read through the reappointments, and we will do a mega motion at the end. Affordable Housing Board, Richard Greenberg, Leonard Robbins, both through December 31st, 2020. Arts Council, Sarah Lester, Bruno Lee, Benny Campa, all three through 12/31/20. Board of Adjustment, Larry Seltzer, through 12/31/21. Greg Dressler, he's moving up from alternate number 1 to the open seat, and he will be there through 12/31/21. Luke Breslin is moving from alternate 2 to alternate 1. His term will end 12/31/18. Environmental Advisory, Al Kuhn, Keen, 12/31/20, and Kirk Soar, 12/31/20. Green Team, Fred Profeta, 12/31/20. Historic Preservation, Virginia Kirshan, Class C, 12/31/21. Eric Hammerberg, Class A, 12/31/21. Daniel Wright and Patty Chrisman, Class C, 12/31/21. Michelle Bobrow, Local Assistance Board, 12/31/20. Open Space Trust Fund Advisory Committee, Andrea Marino, 12/31/20. Recreation Advisory Committee, Heather Slaslovsky, 12/31/20. Rent Leveling Board, Maria Lombardino, 12/31/19. Brenda Ross, 12/31/19. Swimming Pool Advisory Committee, Eileen Rolick, 12/31/20. Ken Parsons, 12/31/20. Sandra Eisman, 12/31/20. Malia Herman, 12/31/20. Township Sustainability for 2018, Robert McCoy is Chair of the Environmental Committee and Tracy Woods, Chair of the Green Team. Senior Advisory Committee, Michael Summers-Gill, 12/31/20. And a new appointment, India Laria, 12/31/20. We get a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. We also received a request from Senior Advisory Committee that we consider appointing a liaison to the Advisory Committee from the library. Right now, we have liaisons from Department of Recreation and Cultural Affairs, the Health Department, the Zoning Official, and the Welfare Director. They're all ex officio, non-voting, and I think the request is reasonable. The library does a lot of work for seniors, so if that's the case, we would ask Mr. Desiderio at the next meeting to amend the ordinance to add a liaison to the Seniors Advisory Committee from the library.
Mr. Mayor, I'm supportive of this. I think it's a reasonable request. My question would be, from a more general process standpoint, if one of our committees wants to establish a liaison to another committee, would the process be that they make a proposal to the Township Committee, and then we, as we're doing here, provide for that in an amendment to the ordinance?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Desiderio, you got that? Yes. Okay. That's it on that. Number 2, parking kiosks. Close to you.
Good evening. I brought this forth, the 2 parking kiosks that we have at the 2 different lots, one over on Baker and one over at near the train station. They're quite old. One of them actually over at Baker Street with the covering was knocked down. We've had several issues with the battery being replaced. There were also a lot of coin jams, needless to say, even though some people are putting in some foreign currency, but it gets jammed a lot. So and in addition to the vendor is no longer here in the United States, they're over in the UK. It's been difficult to get support from them. Luckily, we have Bill Riley, who's very hands-on and seems to be taking care of some issues, but then others, we have to wait for the vendor. So sometimes lately there have been weeks where people aren't paying for the parking because it's just not working. So we've asked for capital for 2 new kiosks, but I don't think it's a matter, the waiting perhaps is not a good choice at the moment. We should perhaps consider now purchasing 1, and that would convert the number. The other issue is the numbering at the lots right now. About 1/3 of them, they're not visible. And we don't have the means right now to remedy that issue.
The number on the space.
The number of the space is correct. So we would move forward and try to do the licensing plate reading, where you put in your license plate like Melbourne or Summit, they do it there. We keep our current mobile app vendor. The payment is the same, credit card, currency. It's really a matter of how we want it to be. But ultimately, we would rather encourage them to use the mobile app and keep 1 kiosk right now at the train station. So
I'm a little confused. What are you asking? What are you recommending?
I'm recommending that we purchase 1 kiosk right now to try to and convert that system into the license plate reading.
Okay.
To fix the issue of people we can't ticket them.
And that kiosk will be at the train station?
At the train
station. And so if you park at the Baker lot, how do you pay?
We could pay through the mobile
What
app.
if you don't have a mobile app?
They would have to walk over to near the train station.
Have to go to the train station. Sorry.
But our mobile now vendor would do the marketing, and that would not cost anything because they obviously want to keep us and we're happy with them. So they would do all the marketing, signage, anything that we need in order to promote that more.
So someone now parks in the Baker lot. Where do they pay? If everything was to be working, they would pay at the machine at the Baker lot, right?
Correct.
Because part of the problem is if you pay at the Baker lot, oftentimes you don't walk to the train station because you enter the tracks at the South Tunnel and go up the tracks, particularly like for the 7 or some of the middle track trains. You know, it's just if you don't think it's going to be a lot of people, then it's not going to inconvenience a lot of people. But it's going to be an inconvenience for some people to go all the way up to the train station where they don't normally go down.
Especially rushing for a train.
Unless they have the mobile app.
Right.
Right, I know.
In most cases, they do, because a lot of calls that I am getting, sometimes the mobile app is down, and that gets fixed right away. It tends to get fixed right away. So I think it is being heavily used, the mobile app now. I mean, they're in South Orange. They're in a lot of big places, so that might not than we think.
Do you have any more information on the type of marketing awareness plan that this vendor would provide?
I'd have to discuss with them, but just briefly in talking to them, they would do all the signage, all of the, even advertising, just a lot of the awareness they would be doing.
What's the vendor for these kiosks that you're recommending?
It is, they're over
mobile
in
app.
Summit. They are the ITS, Integrated Technical Systems.
Echo the mayor's concern of not having a kiosk. As I've used the ones you're talking about in Summit myself, if the my app's not working or my phone didn't, or I had to get rid of it, and then you have to remember, then they have a location number of where your car is parked. The license plate recognition is a great thing as long as you remember your license plate. So there's even the possibility of somebody parking at Baker Street, getting all the way over to the kiosk at the train station and forgetting their license plate number. And then they're trying to catch a train. I just think it's a little too much. I'm in favor of actually replacing the kiosk. I'm just not necessarily in favor of eliminating one at that location. It's just too.
At a cost of $10,000 a kiosk, I think that's a trade-off I'm going to make.
Well, it would cost less once you do get the second one.
Okay.
Just right now, it's more expensive because of the programming. I think it's a $1,000 difference. So we would just then purchase a second one come our capital approved. If we get approved. So.
Right, but why wouldn't we, if the one by Baker Street is the one that's in the worst shape, and the one is by the train station is still working, why wouldn't we just replace the one that's in the worst shape in the place where it's in the worst shape?
Essentially, you're going to have.
Unless you're going to move the one from the train station over to the Baker Street lot.
You'll have two different vendors. That's the only downside.
You're basically saying get rid of both of these kiosks and replace it with just
Right.
a whole new.
Because we have a vendor from out of country.
Yeah,
Out of the country.
Right.
But the mobile app works with both of those machines anyway.
Correct.
So let me ask you, this has to be a capital item? We have to put in the budget? I mean.
Well, we have the $10,000 to buy the one kiosk, right?
Correct.
Yeah, we have $10,000 to buy the one kiosk in our capital.
I don't oppose the purchase, I'm very concerned about the removing one from the Baker Street lot.
You know, I'm trying to figure out if there's a way that we could do both at one time.
Right.
Because it's a revenue stream that
Right.
is against it.
So it would be 9,000 for the second kiosk, you're saying?
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to do that until our budget is at least introduced or approved. So we were trying to get ahead of the curve
Right.
because we're going to lose the money in the winter. I mean, they'll have no excuse in the spring because we'll be able to lay down new numbering. But, and that's fine. We just wanted to bring the option because we pay $6,000 a month to use the lots.
Right.
So, and we typically only make about $20,000 to $25,000, revenue a year. So that's just what it is. So, I mean, if we were to buy two, it costs $19,000. So, we're already shrunk in terms of revenue.
Here's the other wrinkle. We're going to be making significant changes in that Baker Street intersection, including changing the orientation of the Baker Street lot.
Right.
Instead of entering from the north and driving south, you would enter from the south and drive north. So we're going to have to do restriping and renumbering anyway there.
Well, we wouldn't do numbering if we go to the new
That's
system.
Right.
And yes, you soon learn your license plate, once or twice.
I don't know, I
It's,
still don't.
And
You
it's-
take a picture of it with your phone.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, anyway, but the point is that, yes, you're going to do that, but we're not sure when that's really going to reach fruition. So we would try to prepare it so that we can move the kiosk wherever it's going to be. I understand, and that's why we brought it to you, because there is going to be some blowback in terms of when people say, wow, you know,
Of course.
but, you know, I couldn't do it, I missed my train and
Do
blah,
you
blah,
have any
blah.
idea how much money we're losing from the jams and the people not paying and all that stuff? How much revenue we're actually losing?
So we make about $2,000 a month.
Make 2,000.
Yeah. So, I don't know, currently, yeah, because if we get,
Well,
yeah.
that's what I'm asking. So is
Our
it
revenue.
before or at, like, are we now making 1,200 a month because we're losing some?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly, but in total, we bring in about 74, 84, about anywhere between 94,000 and 100,000, and we pay $72,000 in rent.
I have two questions. One, do we know or can we find out what percentage of people that park there are Maplewoodians versus people coming from Milburn and South Orange?
Well,
Low percentage.
yeah,
I agree with that.
yeah.
So it's a low percentage of our own residents would be impacted by us changing
Yes.
these kiosks. And by us not having this kiosk, we're losing revenue.
Yes.
So I'm in favor of having this kiosk put in, so I can make more revenue for the town from other residents who come from other towns,
Right.
technically a little fast,
Yeah.
to park in that parking lot to catch their train, and they should at least pay.
And and we'll make sure that there's some sort of public relations campaign too, right?
Right, absolutely. I mean, I think.
For a while, to make sure people get the idea.
Well, that was my question about the marketing, because they would have to be aggressive, everything from flyers in the cars to
Correct.
maybe even having a person there for a week to explain the process to the resident or the constituents, if you will.
So,
What?
the proposal is this the proposal?
Yes.
That you buy one kiosk, install it at the train station, we change vendors, that vendor would be capable of also being able to use the mobile app, or would?
The mobile app vendor is separate, it'll go with
Okay.
Right.
any parking system.
So we could do mobile app right now,
Yeah, we do.
regardless of whether we
Right.
change the,
Yes.
I mean, there are people that are not even using kiosks. I don't know if you wanted to go that far, that they're just strictly doing mobile apps.
right. So the mobile app
That's
issue
kind of
is
a
not,
different
it's not an issue, the mobile app.
No,
They're doing it now,
Right.
but,
and we want to get more people to do it.
correct.
Yes.
So, okay, so tell me how the new kiosk vendor is going to push the mobile app if that's not their product.
It's having the second option,
Yeah, but
essentially.
who?
No, the person with the kiosk doesn't do the advertising. It's the person with the mobile app who does the
So would
advertising.
we be able to go to mobile now and have them send push notifications to anyone using that so that they can know that there's no longer a kiosk there and that it's license plate recognition, they're no longer putting a space number in and all that stuff?
Correct.
A lot of change. Having dealt.
Yeah, no, I agree.
dealt with parking,
That's why we brought it here.
yeah, I know. I mean, I
The buck
just know
stops
how
here.
it goes.
I have another question with respect to that kiosk, not for nothing, but how many times have people backed up and
Oh.
taken out the glass or whatever? I think that kiosk is in a bad location.
It is.
I don't want a kiosk there. And I certainly don't want to pay for a new one.
Right, we can move that. We had it there because of the power source that was near it, the secondary power source.
I'm just a no on putting a kiosk at the Baker Street lot.
You're a no to, well,
I'm a no on it.
well then, but that's a decision that will come up because we're requesting it in our capital budget, and then you can all
Yeah.
fight it out or whatever. But we're thinking of now because we're losing revenue, and this is a way we thought we could, clear that up fairly fast.
Right, no, but I'm in agreement with
Yes,
Ms.
I
Viveros
got you.
that let's go ahead and make the revenue, because if someone doesn't pay, we're getting revenue if they don't pay and they were supposed to. We'll issue a citation and we'll make even more revenue.
Yeah.
It's good for me.
Is that?
So you said this is the same company, the kiosk, same one as in Summit?
Yes.
Okay, so I know that they've had major issues with Summit, like when it rains, those kiosks don't work. So even though they're under a cover,
Okay.
so there's issues that I would want answers to before you make that purchase with
Okay.
regard to how reliable they are in inclement weather.
I have reached out to a second vendor, so I would obviously,
Because,
you know,
yeah,
bring
they
that.
literally like the DeForest lots in Summit, when it
Mhm.
rains, they don't even get, you don't have to pay to go in there.
Okay.
Where was that again?
All right, so a couple of things. One is, the revenue thing is important to me. So, and my colleague, Mr. Lindbrick, if I know we can write a bunch of citations and we do it on a daily basis, I'm all for it because there's a lot of revenue to be made. But assuming
Yeah,
that
we pay parking enforcement people.
We write to
every day.
Yeah,
Okay, I just wanna
They
check,
they
'cause I-
do.
And especially since they're not Maplewood residents, frankly, so that's a big thing too.
Okay, let's
Now-
not turn off too many non-Maplewood residents.
Right.
They do spend money in the village.
They
on their
do
way to their
spend money,
farm.
but they do drive to, right by me, my hair half flies by as they gonna catch the train. That being said, if we were, I would be in agreement with Mr. Lindbrick in saying, getting a new kiosk and putting it at the train station, because when it comes to mobile apps, as a New Jersey Transit consumer, I use the mobile app. And sometimes it does go down, but most of those commuters are on the mobile app. So they're already conditioned to use mobile apps. This is not anything new to them. It's just a question of the marketing, going back to my point, that the marketing company does an efficient job, inclusive push notifications, assuming they've opted in to push notifications. In iOS, you have to opt in, Android, you don't. And therefore, making sure they get that. So I would be very interested in seeing their marketing plan to subsequently push the awareness. And I say, put it in and let's go.
I personally need just a little more information.
Okay.
So let's see if we can sort this out. The mobile app is being accepted at all of our parking spaces there now. This
This
is
is
whatever
the kiosk.
kiosks we have right now. And are we working with the mobile company to promote and push out the mobile app?
People have the mobile app.
So they know it.
Yeah,
We
But
have
but we don't
this.
have, we have stickers there.
yeah, we have, they're all, yeah.
Okay. But if we're making major changes, I think you want to get out. and
Absolutely.
Let people know that,
Yes,
you're going to have to use your mobile app or hike over to
right.
the
Or
train station.
give yourself enough time to get to that
Okay.
station.
And then the kiosk at Baker Street, is it not working at all? Does it have to be removed?
I have to tell you, today I got a notice that the door's not opening because it's frozen shut, so they can't even get into it. That's one of the
Well,
alerts.
that could happen anyway.
Who are you talking
Yeah,
about?
that could happen anyway.
Customers?
It is,
The patrol officer who's trying to
Right.
collect the funds, so, I mean.
But that's, you have
Weather.
extraordinary weather out there. So is it working still, or does it have to be
It's,
taken?
The battery is constantly dying. It's solar powered.
Your recommendation to remove it now?
yes.
Yes.
even without a new kiosk at the train station?
No, I would not do that.
See,
Okay.
well,
Yeah.
all right.
I'm having a hard time, I'm sorry.
No, I am, tell you what, I would remove it. I would remove it because it's causing a lot of problems. People are, not able to do it. They get frustrated, et cetera. If it's not working, it should be removed.
Then how is someone going to pay other than the mobile app there, or not?
They can go to the other kiosk
They can.
and put their money in, yes.
Put in their, and put in their space number.
And put in their space number, which, right now, some of them are not visible. So, or when it snows or ices, it
Yeah,
covers it.
I think you should just leave everything as is, come back with more information
Yeah.
about that we've brought up here, about the marketing
I
of it from the mobile app and also from the.
Will it work in the rain?
Yeah,
Yes. So those are the two things that we've got, we have to do our due diligence on.
will it fit in the existing cover?
But the cover was,
This is, yeah, it's fine.
Not by Baker Street, but by where the.
We'll have to- we'll
the
check
one by
that
the train station.
All right. Will it fit?
So there's a lot of
Yeah.
logistical things we need some.
Okay.
Okay, you going to come back to us?
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The CCR
Thank
is
you.
having Martin Luther King event on the 15th of January at 5 p.m. They're having a luminaries event where they're going to have bells at houses of worship ring, encouraging people to have luminaries in front of their homes. They would like to do luminaries here at Town Hall. I just wanted to make sure everybody's okay with that. Okay.
No objection.
Okay. Because I want you to drive by and see all these lights, well, actually, I hope you're here, so. New Jersey American Water proposal. So when I sent this and put it on the agenda, we had received information from the New Jersey American Water that they were proposing new rates in the amount of $129 million. Actually, the new rates would yield operating revenue of $129 million or 17.54%. That was from a petition that was filed in September 15th to the Board of Public Utilities. Petition filed on November 3rd. The proposed rate increase now would only raise $4 million, 0.63. Not sure how this all changed.
Mr. Mayor, in light of that, I'm not sure, talking about a 0.63% rate increase.
I agree. No. I actually think it should be raised that much because they need to fix the water mains around town.
Yeah.
So I would draw that as an issue. And lastly, I had circulated some information of a model of a resolution in Cranford that would allow us to voluntarily designate electronic news sources. This would be a non-cost item. This would just be instruction to our clerk as that she sends the public notices to the News Record and or the Star Ledger, because it's either or, that she also send in the same notice to TAP, into Soma, and the Village Green.
And they don't charge for those notices?
Correct. Well, they may not print it, but they don't charge. We send it to them so they're on notice. And we would not pay them. The only requirement we have is that we have to put it into a newspaper, and there is a either or. Two newspapers, but it doesn't have to be in both at the same time. You can put it in the News Record or in the Star Ledger.
We're talking about two different things. Notices of meetings
Yes,
are published in the News Record and the Star Ledger on the
yes.
first, so it's both.
like ordinances.
Ordinance is one.
One.
Right, and notices of public meetings?
Two.
Okay.
So we would continue to do what we're doing now, and they get charged, we get charged on a line basis.
Right.
This other thing would just be sending it to the electronic news, the electronic information sources, and if they want to print it, they can print it, or they could put it up, or if they don't want to put it up, they don't have to put it up.
So is this a federal law or
No, state
law?
State law.
State law. So how long before the state law requires us to do?
No, quite frankly, quite frankly, the state has looked at it and has not changed the law.
Yeah, there was actually a big kerfuffle in Trenton about this
Right.
last year.
Oh, well, that was when Christie was trying to.
Correct.
I'm just saying that, you know.
Well, because it's a big revenue source for newspapers.
It is,
So
yeah.
it feels like it's.
Correct.
Not far behind that it would be a revenue source for online newspapers. I'm just, not that I'm putting ideas into your head or anything, but.
But at the moment, we are not allowed to only designate electronic news sources. We have to use
Correct.
print
Yeah,
sources.
I get that.
The electronic news sources will not satisfy the statute.
Correct.
It's just a question of.
Correct, it's just voluntary.
Right.
So this supplements, does not supplant.
Correct.
Correct.
I think the resolution that Cranford put forth was very clear that
Right.
it designates the Cranford Chronicle, the Union County Local Source, Westfield Leader, and Star Ledger as the four newspapers. And then in addition, the electronic news source, tap into Cranford. I think we should just do a similar to resolution.
agree.
If we agree with it.
Absolutely.
So would you prepare that resolution?
I will indeed.
Thank you.
Okay, then we'll vote on it at the next meeting.
Yep.
Okay. Can we get a motion on the consent agenda with item number 9 and 15 off?
Excuse me for interrupting. It's resolution 918, but it's item number 7 on the consent agenda.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move items 1 through 6, 8 through 12, and 14 of the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. Lindberg?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. Can we get a motion rather, on resolution 9.18, 9-18, resolution suspending enforcement of ordinance limiting borders within the Township of Maplewood?
Mr. Mayor, I move the adoption of resolution 9-18.
Is there a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. Lindberg?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca.
Yes, and Mr. Lembrick, do you want to move Resolution 15-18?
I would. Do we want to discuss that first, or should I move it first?
You should move it first and get a
Okay,
second. and then
Mr.
we-
Mayor, I'd like to move adoption of resolution number 15-18, a resolution calling for the resignation or removal of Donald J. Trump as President of the United States.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion, Mr. Lembrick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd first like to, before I talk about what this resolution is, I'd like to talk about what it's not. And that is, despite my deep personal opposition to the president's politics and policies, this resolution is not about that. This is about my sincere belief that the president poses a serious threat to our nation, our Constitution, and our democracy. I recognize that even if President Trump were to resign or be removed, his replacement would likely be someone whose politics and policies I would also disagree with. So this is not a partisan act that I'm asking us to take tonight, but a patriotic one, to defend the office of the President of the United States, to defend our nation, and to defend our Constitution, our democracy, our freedoms of speech, of the press, our judiciary, and other critical American institutions from what I see as a threat from within in the form of our current president. And because I was not able to distribute for publication this resolution in advance, I would like to quickly read it for the record. Resolution calling for the resignation or removal of Donald J. Trump as President of the United States. Whereas by trust placed in the office, the President of the United States sets an example of moral leadership for Americans, sets standards for ethics and behavior in his or her words and actions, sets an example to children and young adults, and serves as a representative of the United States of America to the international community. And whereas Donald J. Trump has engaged in a persistent pattern of sexual harassment, assault, and misconduct against women, including boastful admissions about unwanted sexual touching and advances. And whereas Donald J. Trump has engaged in a consistent and appalling pattern of misogynist behavior, including disrespectful and demeaning public remarks about women, among them elected and government officials, members of the media, and victims of sexual harassment and assault. And whereas Donald J. Trump has engaged in a pattern of self-dealing behavior, using the office of President of the United States to enrich himself and his family. And whereas Donald J. Trump has refused to release his tax returns and ignored conflict of interest rules by appointing close family members to positions of high government authority, receiving funds from foreign governments and interests, and refusing to put his assets in a blind trust. And whereas Donald J. Trump has engaged in a pattern of racist, xenophobic, and hateful public statements, including demeaning and derogatory statements regarding individuals based on their race, ethnicity, religion, culture, sexual orientation, and disability status, while refusing to denounce members of the Ku Klux Klan, alt-right, and other white nationalist groups. Whereas Donald J. Trump has publicly provided support to white supremacists, praising those who bore torches on the streets of Charlottesville while shouting messages of racial hate and anti-Semitism as, quote, very fine people, even after an innocent woman had been killed in the violence. And whereas Donald J. Trump has made nativist statements attacking immigrants, Americans of Hispanic and Caribbean heritage, Muslim Americans, and others, and has encouraged or failed to discourage violence and other oppressive behaviors towards these groups by his supporters. And whereas Donald J. Trump has made numerous gratuitous verbal assaults on foreign nations and leaders, the United States' position in the world and drawing widespread rebuke from the international community, including long-term allies. And whereas Donald J. Trump has failed to fulfill his constitutional duty to appoint officials to the federal government and its agencies, with the majority of federal appointments still vacant nearly a year after he assumed office, including key vacancies in the Department of Homeland Security, Department of Defense, and State Department. Whereas high-ranking members of Donald J. Trump's campaign and administration have pled guilty or been indicted in connection with efforts to undermine the integrity of the United States election process. And whereas Donald J. Trump and his administration have obstructed justice in connection with the independent counsel's investigation into possible Russian interference in the 2016 United States presidential election, including his own potential role in collusion or other illegal activities. And whereas Donald J. Trump has undermined the United States election process by making unsubstantiated and irresponsible allegations of voter fraud. And whereas Donald J. Trump has undermined the freedom of the press, made false and misleading statements trying to discredit the media in attempts to stifle criticism and dissent, and routinely and deliberately disseminated lies and misinformation to the American public, both directly and through intermediaries. And whereas Donald J. Trump has undermined confidence in the United States judiciary by making unsubstantiated and irresponsible allegations against judges and other officers with whom he has disagreed on matters both public and private. Whereas the President of the United States has historically been a voice of reassurance, restraint, and comforts in times of national tragedy and international strife. And whereas Donald J. Trump national and international tragedies as opportunities to stir racial, religious, and ethnic strife, to incite fear, and to deepen partisan rancor for his own personal and political benefit. And whereas the behavior and conduct of Donald J. Trump is unbecoming of the office of President of the United States, and he has shown himself unfit for and unworthy of that office. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Maplewood, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that one, the Township Committee of the Township of Maplewood calls upon Donald J. Trump to immediately resign the office of President of the United States. The Committee of the Township of Maplewood calls upon the Vice President of the United States and the principal officers of the executive departments to declare, pursuant to the procedures set forth in the 25th Amendment, that Donald J. Trump is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. 3, the Township Committee of the Township of Maplewood calls upon Congress to consider impeachment of Donald J. Trump from office, particularly if the special counsel's investigation reveals further actions constituting treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors against the United States of America. 4, a copy of this resolution is to be sent to the White House, United States Senators Robert Menendez and Cory Booker, and United States Representative Donald Payne Jr. I urge my colleagues to support this resolution and also welcome any questions, comments, additions, or other feedback that you may have. Thank you.
Evan, I worry that Donald J. Trump, unless this is tweeted to him in 144 characters, will have no idea that this was passed. Not that it matters, but perhaps we could do each whereas by tweet.
I'm certainly.
It sounds like a joke, but that's the only way he communicates.
Should we pass this resolution tonight, I'm certainly happy to do that tomorrow.
Any other discussion?
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Lindberg?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Okay. Public comment. Is there anyone who would like to address the Township Committee?
Good evening.
Good
Happy
evening.
New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
President Paige Hawkins, Essex County Representative, and here before you, the first meeting of the year. Also to remind you that the county stands available, especially during inclement weather and any other needs that you may have. I have left with the township clerk notices on the deal management program. As usual, the 2 sites will be closed during that management time period. In South Mountain Reservation, it's going to be January 16th, 18th, 23rd, 25th, and 30th. And Hilltop Reservation will be in February 6th, 8th, 13th, 15th, 20th, and 22nd. Are there any issues or concerns that I need to take back to the county?
Ms. Paige Hawkins, one thing, and this is rather broad in general, but I would just say as we as a local Maplewood governing body look at the potential impact that the new tax plan may have on this community, and as we see that in almost every ranking of counties to be most impacted, particularly by the changes in deductibility of state and local taxes, mortgages, et cetera, that Essex County is pretty much number one or very close to the top counties most likely to be impacted. So if you could convey to the county executive and other officials at the county that we would be very supportive of any steps they can take, whether it be lobbying or administrative or really anything under the sun they can think of that can help us to provide some tax relief or help us to adjust to the new unfortunate reality that the new federal tax plan may visit upon residents of Essex County, including residents here in Maplewood. And I'm sure that we'll have more specific ideas on that, but if you could just convey our support to the county executive and county officials for anything they can do, and if there are things that they could use our assistance with in their efforts in this regard, please let us know, because we're certainly all in this together, and it certainly looks like Essex County is going to be very hard hit by some of these changes.
Okay, thank you, and I will convey that tomorrow's cabinet meeting.
Thank you very much.
Put that on discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, anyone else? See, no one will close that public comment period. Administrative reports, Mr. Manning?
No report, Mayor. Any questions?
Just wanted to talk, we have budget meetings scheduled for January 20th and 27th.
Right.
I did speak to you about the conflict on the 20th with a march, a women's march that's going to occur in both Morristown and New York City. I don't know if my colleagues were intending to participate. I know we're going to get a lot of people from our community. I would like to participate, so that would necessitate canceling the 20th.
Right.
Can we switch the 20th to the 27th and the 27th to the following
Saturday?
Yeah, I'm going to have a conflict for the morning of the 3rd, but Mr. McGee can run the meeting on the 3rd if that works. I have a Sustainable Jersey meeting that 3rd, so I'm doing a presentation, so, you know. So is that okay? We'll switch the first budget meeting to the 27th?
To the 27th and February 3rd.
Third.
Mayor, could I get the times? 9 o'clock?
Same thing.
Yeah.
So now, we were roughly, was it 9 to 3 or 9 to 4?
Well,
Which one was
it?
it?
Was 9 to 4.
9 to 4.
Okay.
For both dates?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
We'll set it, we'll revise the schedule and get it out again and tell our department heads tomorrow at the meeting.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Desiderio?
Just a note of warning, I guess is the word, but we're probably going to have at the next meeting 7 to 9 new ordinances, really all dealing with traffic. The addition of stop signs, mostly at T intersections, coming out of the engineering department that I'm sure came out of committees. So, there's going to be a lot of them on there. And I held them off for this meeting because of New Year's, but we'll have all of those on. So I'm just alerting it to the facts.
Yeah,
Okay.
these have been identified as part of our road work, the Engineering and Public Works Committee, and also some of our meetings with the folks over
Hillcrest.
Or, yeah,
I mean, that's where most of they
over
are.
on Brookwood where we had a
They're
meeting.
effectively T intersections,
Right.
so like, so, okay? And there's one parking on Burr Road. But, like I said, there might be 7 or 8 of them, so, we'll get them to Ms. Fritzen and just alerting you to the fact that we're gonna have them on.
Thank you. Ms. Fritzen?
Yes, Mayor, I just wanted to, remind the Township Committee that we'll probably have about 3 resolutions concerning 5 Highland Place Associates to get this license back up online at the next meeting.
I'm not sure that's gonna be the next meeting.
You know? Okay.
I mean, we reported to you in the last meeting that there's a process. The applicant is not in any hurry.
Right.
The attorney for the applicant's not in any hurry. So I think it's gonna be a while, quite frankly.
Okay.
Okay.
One more thing, all the appointments you made tonight, we'll be sending, each appointee a letter and an oath of office.
Each appointee will get a letter and an oath of office.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fritzen.
And I will send you the list, so that you can update the website with all these folks. And at one point, we had been putting addresses of these volunteers. We don't do that anymore, right? Okay.
No, we don't do that.
So I'll give you a new list with all the liaisons and you'll have
Can I
that
get
all.
it too, Mayor?
Maybe. Anything from Ms. Fritzen?
I can't see your mouth moving from my new seat. I can't read your lips.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Just want to thank you for a nice coordination of yesterday.
Yes.
The organization. Thank you.
It was beautiful.
Thank you so much.
All right, so reports from elected officials. Ladies and gentlemen, this will be Dean Daffis's first report. Mr. Daffis.
I have no report.
All right. Let's go. So if you can do that for another year, that would be great. Ms. Adams.
Yes, Mayor, I have a few things from Engineering Public Works, since it took place after our last Township Committee meeting. I first want to welcome Mr. Daffis to the Township Committee in your first meeting, which is shorter than normal. So
Thank you, Ms. Adams.
congratulations.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
At last Engineering Public Works, as you know, the leaf pickup schedule was extended due to many leaves still being needed to be picked up. So Department of Public Works extended the schedule. And at Engineering Public Works, we discussed changing the dates due to climate change and certain leaves not falling at all until spring. So that's something we're going to continue to look into. Recycling pickup, there have been problems with missed houses or missed sections of town or missed streets. The operator of that has been talked to. Mr. Desiderio also sent a letter. So that has been addressed and it is improved. However, if any residents have any issues with that on their own, you should call the Department of Public Works and notify them if your recycling on Mondays has not been picked up. We also had issues with the leaf blower ordinance with regard to workers. Part of the ordinance requires workers to be provided and instructed to wear respiratory and hearing protection when using leaf blowers. Many of the companies have not been doing that. Some have been cited. The Director of Public Works was advised at our last meeting to make sure, because we purchased the equipment for our own workers, to make sure that those workers are wearing the protective equipment as directed in our own ordinance. We had a discussion about Maplewood Memorial Park tree survey and bridge repair, that the pedestrian bridges in the park are in need of repair, some in need of reconstruction or more massive repair. Paul Kittner, our engineer, DPW, and are all working closely, are being directed to work closely with the Maplewood Park Conservancy on all of that and replacement of trees. We also have a study of the timing of the lights along Springfield Avenue. Originally, we were just going to be doing a study of the intersection by Boyden once Avalon Bay is full. But we have noticed too many delays on Springfield Avenue. I think I raised it at the last meeting in December. So we instructed the engineer to look into doing a study of the timing of all the lights from end to end, so that we are not diverting traffic into residential areas. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. McGehee?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Lambert?
Mr. Mayor, two things. First, I'd like to echo the welcome of Mr. Daffis.
Mr. Lambert?
Already making very fine contributions.
Thank you, sir.
The other thing I wanted to raise, and I actually I had thought about putting it on for discussion, and I think maybe we can talk about it among ourselves a little bit, and maybe it might make sense for it to be considered by one of the committees before we discuss it in the Township Committee. But a number of residents have reached out to me, and once a few did, then it became an avalanche about how certain streets in town have an ordinance that applies to them that prohibits parking within 5 feet of driveways on the street. And there are many streets where that doesn't apply. And in some cases, that doesn't apply because it would essentially eliminate on-street parking. But there are certainly several residents who reached out to me whose streets I know would not eliminate on-street parking, and because of their proximity to parks, to schools, to other areas that do tend to get congested sometimes. I've seen a number of photos where I really did feel for the residents, and in terms of the angle they would have to take or the difficulty they would have trying to pull out even forward, much less backward out of their driveway, given how close people had parked to their driveway. And I'm wondering if we might be able to have either in one of the committees or as a township committee consider expanding the list of streets to which we have that ordinance applied, because I certainly, in looking at some of the streets that residents have complained about, I at least see no reason why we couldn't have the 5-foot rule apply there. And whether we would need striping or not, I guess, is a different discussion. But right now, the ordinance doesn't even apply to some of these streets. So whether there would be an appetite to explore that on behalf of those residents who've spoken out, and probably any number of whom would probably join them if they understood the issue.
Let me ask you, you may not know, do you know of any state laws to how close you can park to a driveway?
No, I honestly do not. That doesn't mean that there isn't, but off the top of my head.
Check on that.
Sure.
Because generally with the 5-foot, we put signs up, and we have done some striping that could be very expensive.
I understand.
So the other thing is, just you're suggesting maybe we just consider a blanket 5-foot law.
Or if not a blanket, at least expanding, and I don't know whether it would make more sense to have the law include specific streets or include all streets, but for other streets.
It might be the other.
Yeah, I'm not sure which way that would go, but my understanding, and again, this is anecdotal, but residents that told me they have called the Maplewood Police Department to complain about people parked too close have been told that the rule was 6 inches.
All right, why don't we find that out?
Yeah. So,
that seems awfully close.
That does seem awfully close. And so I can, and in some of the photos I was sent of people who had called the police and the police had not issued a ticket, even the 6 inches appeared to be awfully close. I'm not sure whose ruler was used, but but this is an issue, and I think if we particularly, I don't know, I think most streets, my street doesn't need it.
Right.
And I think a number of streets don't need it because parking really isn't an issue. If one of my neighbors has a big party, that's really the only time it becomes an issue. But some people do deal with it on a regular basis that live close to a school, that live close to a park, that live close to a commercial area that's not currently covered. And and they deal with it on an almost daily basis. And that's something I'd like to see us try to alleviate.
Why don't we get that information and maybe we could kick it to engineering and Mr. Kittner can weigh in too, and then we can report back.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Yep, that's what I was.
Okay, I have 3 items. First, we received a letter on December 18th from Essex County saying that we received $168,204 through the Community Development Block Grant for Woodland Road ADA Improvement Project Phase 2. So, Mr. Mann, you can have that. Second, our January is tied up with budget meetings and what have you, so we'll start our talk to the Township Committee in February. And given that it's like below winds out there, we don't need to be out there until February, but it's still cold in February. And lastly, my office hours are going to start, I'll have office hours set January 9th, Tuesday, January 9th. There's nothing else, we get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you very much.
Before 9 o'clock.
Can you hit that button to your right? No, I'm sorry, over there.